This semester, Architecture 511-611 Design Research Studio will engage in 3 design build projects. These are the Art Chapel, Blind, and the Miser's Ruin. Each of these projects are in various stages of completion and seek students interested in full-scale fabrication and experience-based learning. While the student cohort for the Art Chapel is now filled with students returning from last semester's FACS studio, new students will be engaged in either the Blind project or the Miser's Ruin. These projects continue the ongoing relationship between Plain Design Build and the Cedar Point Biostation. It will provide students with a deep knowledge of design gained by physically building a building. In Japanese culture, notions of the tsukumogami and the yokai give animate qualities to everyday objects. This animate quality of the object is part of Plain Design Build's approach to architecture and design. At Plain, we believe that the best way to learn is to observe the thing that you create. At Plain, the object becomes your critic and the building becomes your teacher. At Plain, we give students the possibility of learning by doing. Our current Plain projects lie at the intersection between forestry, architecture and design. We explore the material science of CLT, which is cross-laminated timber, and mass timber construction. We promote circular economies to reduce greenhouse gases and carbon emissions, and work with rural communities within the Great Plains region. Our current and future design build projects at Cedar Point engage directly with the mission of the biostation and stress the irreplaceable importance of first source information and field studies. For example, current courses here range from ornithology, art, parasitology, to the underwater forensic studies of crime evidence. In the case of Plain Design Build, our evidence is the cycle of field studies and practical application of knowledge directly gained from forestry and land management and wildfire mitigation within the Midwest. The Miser's Ruin is a 200 square foot micro-dwelling constructed from eastern red cedar trees. This project is funded by the Nebraska Environmental Trust and has been established to develop a low-carbon fabrication system that engages directly with forestry production. It supports a mutually beneficial forestry plan that uses unwanted trees to help mitigate the threat of forest fire at Cedar Point. Students will be engaged in completing the primary structure, which is about 85% complete, and working on interior components, as well as windows, doors, furniture, and finishes. It will also involve site milling of eastern red cedar trees and timber fabrication for assembly. The next project, which is called Blind, is a 130 square foot structure that facilitates the discrete study of the symbiotic relationship between prairie dogs and burrowing owls, and possibly rattlesnakes, that all share a common underground colony for mutual protection. This project will be situated on the southern edge of the Cedar Point Biostation, and it will be accessible by a wide range of visitors, including local public, bioscience academics, and students from grade school through to PhD level. The primary structure of curved cross-laminated timber panels are already fabricated, and the rest of the structure will be assembled from local forestry products harvested at Cedar Point Biostation. This project will require some more detailed design, and then students will be involved in fabrication of the roof, the openings, and they will participate in site assembly when the weather permits. While the physical act of making is central to design build learning, we believe that design research studios must also involve a level of research and include a speculative design component to each project. In addition to physical making, students will be involved in information gathering, reflection, synthesis, and analysis for each of the projects. For the Miser's Ruin, this research will include the conclusion of the embodied energy analysis that will complete calculations of carbon emission for construction and then compare them with standard construction forms. This study will include an evaluation of the project's relationship to circular economies, as well as the analysis of the whole tree usage and material flows of forestry production around the site. Students will make regular documentations and on-the-fly auditing in an effort and material quantities. The data will be gathered and processed through carbon auditing software and spreadsheets to evaluate the total embodied energy for the project. For this, we will use EC3 and Woodworks carbon auditing online evaluations to get an idea if we are net zero or indeed net positive in our embodied energy. We feel this project is unique in the way that it provides for a selective extraction of saw logs that will be determined to be useful for the primary structure and for the interior. This means our timber supply is determined by the areas of the site most vulnerable to forest fires. It allows us to explore a mass timber construction system constrained by a 1,000-foot radius from cradle to site. This effectively means that most of the stages from A1 to 5 in a whole life carbon assessment are easily within walking distance of the site. Our ongoing evaluation, that is carbon, student effort and collaboration, helps shape our awareness of the impact of the design and design decisions and alterations up to the final completion. Prairie Dog Blind has two research themes. Firstly, it will continue the ongoing analysis into new forms of curved, vacuum-formed cross-laminated timber and how it's applied to real-world construction. This project emerged from a sequence of exhibitions and research studios in the past that included the back-loop curve continuity, which was an installation of curved cross-laminated timber panels at Nebraska Wesleyan Gallery. It presents research into the fabrication of modular forms of this curved CLT, using sources of lumber which are native to Nebraska. This system is part of a wider research project into composite timber structures, especially CLT, that offer efficient, sustainable and affordable alternatives to concrete and steel. The second aspect of blind research will help enable the study of the unique multi-species cohabitation and animal communication of prairie dogs. These research tasks will include looking for ways to monitor the behavior and capture the activity through audiovisual installations. It also allows us to study an example of a multi-species design that can be applied to the cohabitation of human and non-human life forms. We will engage in the current discussion of the potential of multi-species cultures and their relevance to future cities. This semester, the Design Research Studio will be based at Innovation Studios. For both Cedar Point projects, students will be expected to work at NIS as well as on-site at Cedar Point. We anticipate something like 4 visits depending on the schedule and the weather. NIS membership and Cedar Point travel and accommodation costs will all be covered. This concludes my presentation for ARC 511-611 Design Research Studio.